Part 174. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1731. Long Ji casts a spell to ward off the thunder. Hua Xiu quickly came to me and asked with worried eyes, "Brother, are you okay?" I shook my head. Xiao He said on the side, "Boss. We have been looking for you for 2 months and finally found you." 2 months? I suddenly heard that the speed of time in the land of the fallen god is different from that outside. "Boss, where is Cai Dai?" Xiao He looked around for Cai Dai. My throat was crawling and I replied hoarsely, "She's gone." Xiao He was stunned and asked, "Gone? Where did you go?" I didn't answer. Xiao He was slightly startled when he saw the expression on my face, then lowered his eyes and murmured in a low voice, "That's it?" Xiao He did not continue. I could clearly feel his emotional loss. At this time, I suddenly found a familiar figure in the crowd. It's Xiang Yi. Sure enough, he wasn't dead. He was the one who sent me a message last time telling me not to come here. When I looked at Xiang Yi was also looking at me. Neither of us spoke. The misunderstanding between me and him has not been resolved. But I don't blame Xiang Yi. I have known him for such a long time, and I know his character very well. I just resented why he didn't sit down and talk it over with me. Maybe we could face it together. At this time, a cold voice sounded in my ears. No time to reminisce. I was slightly startled when I heard this voice. Looking for the voice, I saw Huo Qubing standing not far away. I never thought that Huo Qubing would come to help me. Hua Xiu took my hand and said, "Brother, you and Sister Tianqian leave first. We are here." I watched Hua Xiu open his mouth, wanting to say "let's go together." But I swallowed the words as soon as they reached my lips. "Because staying here as I am now will only hold you back." Su Tianqian said softly next to me, "Xiao Su, let's go, leave this place to Hua Xiu and the others. Wen Zhong can't hold on much longer." I nodded, looked at Hua Xiu and others, and said, "Please pay attention to your safety." Hua Xiu and the others nodded. Afterwards, Su Tianqian took me away. Soon, the two of us found the exit from the land of the fallen god. As soon as I left the land of the fallen god, I couldn't hold on any longer. I was injured, and the death of Cai Dai caused me great mental damage. I opened my eyes and fainted immediately. I don't know what happened after that, and I don't know how long I was unconscious. When I woke up again, I was already in a familiar room. I struggled to sit up and looked around. This is Su Tianxuan's room. There is no one in the room. At this time, the room door opened and Su Tianqian walked in. When she saw that I was awake, she hurriedly came to me and asked, "Xiao Su, are you awake? Do you feel any discomfort?" I shook my head and replied, "I'm fine." "Where are Hua Xiu and the others?" Su Tianqian replied, "They have come back." I nodded, and then with the help of Su Tianqian, I went to the lobby on the first floor. In the hall, I saw Hua Xiu, Xiao He, and Long Ji. But Xiang Yi and Huo Qubing are not here. As for Zhao Mian, he is not here either. When Hua Xiu and the others saw me waking up, they hurriedly came forward to greet me. I don't know why, but I always feel that Ji Yuntang is deserted and not as lively as before. Why did it become like this? It is probably because Cai Dai is no longer there. When Cai Dai was still there, Ji Yuntang was always filled with laughter and laughter, but now. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1732. Brother, how do you feel? Hua Xiu asked with worried eyes. I smiled and replied, "I'm fine. You guys didn't get any injuries when you came back from the land of the fallen god, right?" Hua Xiu shook his head and said, "No, Wen Zhong disappeared without persisting for too long." I nodded and returned to the room in a low mood. After a while, Su Tianqian walked in. Xiao Su, I know you feel uncomfortable. If you feel uncomfortable, tell me. I looked at Su Tianqian, hesitated for a while, and said, Tianqian, I'm wondering if I hadn't gone to Miaozhong, I wouldn't have known Feng Luan and Cai Dai. If I didn't know them, would they still be alive now? Su Tianqian looked at me quietly with her beautiful eyes, and she said slowly, if you didn't go to Miaozhong, Feng Luan would still be in that village, and maybe he would be dead now. If you didn't go to Miaozhong, Kaidi would still be in the darkness, sleeping. It was you pulled them out of that place. I lowered my eyes and said, but, I pulled them out with my own hands and killed them with my own hands. Su Tianqian shook his head slightly and said, Xiao Su, this is not your fault. Don't blame yourself too much. All this has been doomed a long time ago. I have heard a legend about the sky coffin before. What legend? Su Tianqian said softly, the coffin is made up of the souls of heaven and earth. If someone lies in it, the soul of heaven and earth will return to heaven and earth. After the soul returns to heaven and earth, all the regrets of the person in the coffin will be smoothed away, and the resurrection of the dead will not be a problem. I looked at Su Tianqian in surprise and asked, Tianqian, are you telling the truth? Su Tianqian nodded, shook his head and said, this is just a legend. I don't know whether it is true or false. This legend is most likely true. Because the sky coffin can indeed repair this broken earth. However, I am the only one who can lie in the sky coffin. Su Tianqian could only sacrifice himself to repair the broken sky coffin. In other words, only those who can exert the ability of the sky coffin. To put it simply, the sky coffin can fulfill one of the wishes of the person who enters the coffin, which is to heal the regrets in his heart. Therefore, only if the sky coffin is intact and I enter the sky coffin, this legend will become a reality. Su Tianqian reached out and caressed my cheek, looking at me with love on his face. Xiao Su, you have to be strong. Everything is about to come to an end. Only by being strong can you see the end of the story. I knew I had to be strong. But Cai Dai's death hit me too hard. I stood up slowly. Su Tianqian asked, what are you going to do? I looked back at Su Tianqian and said, I'm going to complete what Cai Dai gave me. I came to Nadia's room and turned on Nadia's computer. As soon as I turned on my computer, I saw a memo. I opened the memo and my eyes instantly became moist. Slightly. Lu Su, it seems that you still have some conscience. Remember what I told you. My account number and password have been put below. You must clear all my games and save them. Also, don't be angry when you have an account. I secretly bought a lot of equipment with your money. Behind this sentence is Cai Dai Games account number and password. With shaking hands, I opened one of the games. I don't like playing games very much, but this is something Nai Dai has given me, and I must complete it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1733. There are many games in Nabi's folder. It seemed that Cai Dai had known that she would leave for a long time and had arranged everything in advance. I opened one of the games and started playing through it. Most of the games in the Cai Dai folder are standalone games, some of which are online. I can't beat the online game, so I can only reach the highest rank. I was sitting at the computer desk, tireless, completely unaware that Su Tianqian secretly opened the door and peeked at me through the crack in the door. She looked at me quietly, and then let out a long sigh. At this time, Su Tianqian suddenly started retching. She quickly closed the door and ran towards the bathroom. Just after vomiting, Su Tianqian turned around and saw Long Ji standing behind her. Aren't you going to tell him about this? Long Ji asked. Su Tianxian stretched out her slender hand to caress her belly. No, Cai Dai's death has already given him a big blow. Long Ji took a step forward and asked, if you don't tell him, he will find out sooner or later. Su Tianxian raised his head and replied, I will find an excuse to leave before he finds out. After the child is born, I will accompany him for the last part of the journey. Long Ji frowned slightly and said, Sister Tianxian, you can't do this. You don't have much time, why don't you two face these things together? Su Tianxian smiled at Long Ji and said, Fengluan, it's precisely because I don't have much time that I have to do this. If one day I really leave and this child can still be with him, he won't be too lonely. Long Ji was slightly startled and asked in a trembling voice, how did you know that I am Fengluan's? Su Tianxian reached out and gently touched Miao Fengluan's cheek and said, silly girl, you can hide it from others, how can you hide it from me? When you appeared, I knew you were Fengluan. Long Ji told me before that the only obsession in her heart was you. She should have gone to the tomb of the gods with the other gods, but she couldn't let you go, so she used a secret method to keep her body and part of her soul behind. World. Maybe she already knew that you would encounter this, so she left her body, cultivation, and memory to you. Miao Fengluan lowered his eyes and said, Sister Tianxian, if possible, I don't want this. I don't want Long Ji to disappear because of me. Fengluan, don't have any psychological burden on this matter. This is Long Ji's choice. All you have to do is respect her choice. You survive with her memory and consciousness, which is not a kind of kindness to her. Comfort. Miao Fengluan looked at Su Tianxian with red eyes and asked, Sister Tianxian, what about you? What is your choice? Su Tianxian sighed slightly and said, I have never been afraid of death, because in my opinion, death is something that everyone must experience, it is a rule, and it is the end point. But now. Su Tianxian looked at her belly with a loving expression on her face. But now that I have this little guy, I don't want to die, I want to watch him grow up. Miao Fengluan grabbed Su Tianxian's hand and said, Sister Tianxian, there must be a way. There must be a way, right? Su Tianxian shook his head and said, no more, this is the only way. Only if I sacrifice to Tian Coffin can Xiao Su complete the rest. If I don't do this, you, Huaxiu, Xiao He, everyone will die. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1734. Miao Fengluan lowered his eyes and didn't know what to say. Su Tianxian smiled at Miao Fengluan and said, okay, don't be so pessimistic. Life, separation, and death are inevitable in life. Although our hearts are full of nostalgia and reluctance, we must also learn to face it. Say goodbye softly, not to forget, but to remember better. Let the other person stay in your heart and become an eternal memory. Su Tianxian has long looked down on life and death. Death is nothing to her. Few people can be as open-minded as she is. The only thing she doesn't want to leave is me. But what can you do if you don't want to give up? The outcome has already been determined. Whether it can be changed only God knows. Miao Fengluan raised her eyes to look at Su Tianxian and asked, Sister Tianxian, how long have you been pregnant? Su Tianxian was slightly startled, silent for a moment, and replied, well, let me calculate, it has been 3 or 4 months. As mentioned before, the time flow rate in the land of the god of pregnancy is different from that outside. Su Tianxian has spent nearly 3 months looking for me alone. Miao Fengluan nodded, she took a step forward and gently stroked Su Tianxian's belly. Sister Tianxian, do you like boys or girls? Su Tianxian smiled and said, it's a girl, after all, Xiao Su likes her. Then, have you thought of the name? Su Tianxian was slightly startled. She was silent for a while and then replied, if it is really a girl, I want to call her Lu Ling. Lu Ling? Miao Fengluan asked doubtfully. That's right, the deer and the chariot are pulling together, Sichuan brocade and Wu Ling. Su Tianxian read the sentence slowly. Miao Fengluan smiled brightly at Su Tianxian and said, what a good name. Suddenly, Su Tianxuan's mood suddenly became depressed. Fengluan, after I leave, you will raise the child. Also, Xiao Su, he is clumsy and needs someone to take care of him. Su Tianxian knew that Miao Fengluan liked me. However, she absolutely trusts me in her heart. Trust me, I won't change my mind. At the same time, Su Tianxian also trusted Miao Fengluan, his love rival. Because everyone's character is there, no matter what, it will be difficult for me, Miao Fengluan, and Su Tianxian to go against their true intentions. Sister Tianxian, I won't help you take care of the child. You have to take care of it yourself and watch her grow up little by little. Su Tianxian waved his hand and said, okay, this matter has been decided. You must keep it a secret for me. Miao Fengluan nodded and asked, Sister Tianxian, why has your health become so bad since you became pregnant? Su Tianxian pondered for a moment and replied, it's probably because of my bloodline. It doesn't mean that my body has become worse. To be precise, I have become weaker. I need to use the profound energy in my body to nourish the child. Why? Miao Fengluan asked in confusion. This matter is very simple. I didn't accept the inheritance. It won't take long for me to be physically and mentally destroyed, and all my body functions will be weakened. I used to use the profound energy in my body to maintain it. Now that I have this child, I use all the profound energy in my body to nourish him. If I don't do this, it will be difficult for him to be born. Su Tianxian explained. Miao Fengluan's pupils trembled slightly. Sister Tianxian, if I ask you to say this, wouldn't you? Su Tianxian made a silent gesture. Just know this in your heart and don't say it out loud. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1735. Miao Fengluan looked sad. She lowered her head and remained silent. Okay, Fengluan, don't be sad, it's just death. Su Tianxian comforted him. By the way, it's better not to tell Xiao Su your identity for the time being. Miao Fengluan nodded. I think so too. Afterwards, the two left the bathroom. In the past few days, I locked myself in Nadia's room and played games all the time. Without eating or drinking, Su Tianxian would prepare meals and leave them at the door every day. Maybe she knows that I can only figure this out myself. I didn't eat or drink for 2 days, and on the next morning, I finally finished all Nadia's games. I saved the game and stared at the screen blankly. I don't understand what I have been trying to do. I thought I had changed, but in fact nothing had changed. I have never thought I was so confused now. I don't know what I'm going to do next. I don't know what my goal is either. I really want to spend my life in such a state of confusion. But I know that I can't continue to be depressed. Kadi sacrificed her life because of me, and I couldn't let her sacrifice become meaningless. This kind of plot is really bad. The reason why I say he is bad is because it is reflected in movies and TV series. The female partner and the male partner sacrifice for the male protagonist, and the male protagonist turns his grief and anger into strength and continues to move forward. But, I don't want anyone to sacrifice. Even if we face death together. I stood up slowly, went to the window and opened the curtains. The warm sunshine shone on my body, which somewhat eased my bad mood. Outside the window, there is a lot of traffic and people coming and going. I just watched quietly. For now, I have some respite because of Nadia's sacrifice. The 9 evil stars now only lack Kisha and Pa Jun. Pa Jun is Huo Kyubing. Kisha is on the last floor of the sky coffin. The tomb of the gods temporarily severed its connection with the world. I can take this opportunity to return the two evil stars of Chisha and Pojun to the palace. After returning to the palace, I gain the ability to open the tombs of the gods. Of course, I can choose to open the tomb of the gods or completely seal the tomb of the gods. However, the seal treats the symptoms but not the root cause. One day, the seal of the tomb of the gods will be broken, and the gods will return to the world. This world cannot be without God. Because God is the foundation of faith. As long as there are people in this world who believe, God will definitely exist. Therefore, if we want to fundamentally solve this problem, we should kill the gods. But a new problem of slaying the gods was placed in front of me. The gods perished, order collapsed, and chaos descended. Once the gods are gone, the whole world will fall into a hell on earth where demons rule. If I had to describe this world, it would be the background of the movie A Chinese Ghost Story. Humans, demons, ghosts, demons, coexist. The underworld has lost its function. Let's take a very simple example from the plot. That is the old demon from Montenegro. The Black Mountain Old Demon is the demon king of the underworld. He is a spirit cultivated in a black mountain in the underworld. He has practiced Taoism for tens of thousands of years and has great power in the underworld. He is the king of demons and the king of ghosts. Even the powerful Dryad Grandma is afraid of him. At this time, some people were confused. The old demon of Haishan is the king of the underworld, so where are Yama and Emperor Fengu of the 10 palaces of the underworld? Why do they allow the old monster from Montenegro to dominate the underworld? The reason is actually very simple, that is, the background of the times plays a role. In the context of endless hell, the underworld has lost its original role. The great demons and ghosts from all over the world are entrenched in the world like princes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1736. Once the gods disappear, then this world will come. What should I do to fundamentally solve the problem of the tombs of the gods and maintain order in this world? I lowered my head and fell into deep thought. I integrated the memories in my mind, and sure enough, I found a clue. Zhangzia said, "My purpose is to start the 7th Great Catastrophe." There were a total of 6 great catastrophes in the prehistoric period. I won't go into details about these 6 great tribulations, but I will talk about the 6th tribulation separately. The 6th catastrophe is the great catastrophe of the world. Humanity is still prosperous and then declines. The gods return. Everything returns to chaos under the return of the Great Road, and the world of chaos reappears. At this stage, this disaster has come to an end. The avenue collapsed and chaos returned. Once chaos returns, the human race will be destroyed in an instant. Because among the 6 paths, humanity is the weakest. What I want to do is to start the 7th great catastrophe while ensuring that the avenue does not collapse. Let the 6 paths be in the same echelon. In other words, it gives human beings a chance to compete again to carve up the heaven. To achieve this goal, the only way is to kill the gods. Then they retain their divine status and send their souls to reincarnation, so that they will be reincarnated as adults. If, in the 7th Great Tribulation, they perform well and successfully ascend, then I will restore their status as gods. In this way, the gods would be in the same echelon as the human race, and there would be no absolute suppression. However, in order to maintain the order of heaven and earth, I have to retain part of their souls and let them do their jobs. This is equivalent to the conferred God War. And I am the instigator of the 2nd conferred God War. Send the gods to reincarnation and destroy all their memories. If they have the ability, they can still become gods. Someone asked here. If the gods become gods again, won't the gods still suppress the human race? This problem is actually easy to solve. Because I destroyed the gods, restored the order of heaven to normal, and put all forces on the same starting line. Then the human race can restore its former glory by relying on its own abilities. Even if the gods are reconferred, the human race still has the capital to fight against the gods. Thinking of this, I have determined what I will do next. The first thing is to master the underworld and the 6 paths of reincarnation. Because only by mastering the underworld can I send the gods into reincarnation. The second thing is to let Kisha and Pajun, 2 stars, return to the palace. The third thing is to slaughter the gods and send them into reincarnation, starting the 7th great catastrophe, and planning to bring the human race back to its peak. But, a new problem came one after another. I retain the status of the gods. I am alive and have a deterrent effect on the gods. I can restrict their various actions. If I die, who will restrict them? The sky coffin is made up of the souls of heaven and earth. If the sky coffin exists, I should be able to formulate a new rule of heaven. Even if I can't formulate a new rule of heaven, I can still hand over the list of gods to Zhao Mian. After all, he will not die. The sky coffin is about to be broken, and there are only 2 ways to repair it. One is Su Tianxuan's sacrifice. Second, I entered the sky coffin. Su Tianxuan's inheritance failed and will soon be destroyed physically and mentally. In her words, she will die sooner or later, why not sacrifice the coffin and help me? But I will never allow this to happen. I won't let Su Tianxian die. I bet everything on that legend. If the legend is true, then I can make a wish to bring Su Tianxian, Cai Dai, and Miao Fengluan back to life. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1737. Su Tianxian nodded and said, Xiao Su, I can't help you much. You can see very far into the future, I can only see far into the present. No matter what decision you make, I will support you. I smiled at Su Tianxian and said, Tianxian, I have always been very lucky to have you by my side. If you are no longer here in the future, I really don't know what to do. Su Tianxian smiled at me and said, what are you talking about? Life and death are just the most common laws in the world, and no one can avoid them. I looked at Su Tianxian blankly and asked, Tianxian, why can you take life and death so lightly? Su Tianxian thought for a while and said, well, this may be related to my previous experience. I have seen too much life and death, and I have already understood life and death. If death really comes to me, I think you should be able to face it calmly. Su Tianxian used to live a life of traveling around the world, relying on her skills to travel between the yin and yang worlds. Her view of the world is more transparent than mine. Yeah, death is not a big deal, I just can't accept your death. Su Tianxian was speechless. She looked at me and opened her mouth, not knowing what to say. I reached out and hugged him. Su Tianxuan's pretty face turned red and she said softly, Xiao Su, don't do anything bad in broad daylight. I didn't say I was going to cause trouble. I said with a smile. But having said that, have you gained weight recently? Why do you feel heavier than before when I hold you? Su Tianxian tilted his head and looked at me and asked, what? You won't like me if I get fat? How could be? I quickly denied it. Su Tianxian rolled his eyes and said, young master, if you really like me, you won't talk about me being fat. I shrugged and said, okay, I won't talk about it anymore, and I'm starting to have a bad temper again. I didn't, I was just discussing the matter. It seems that Su Tianxian hasn't been mean in front of me for a long time. She has also played tricks before, after all, she has never been in love. Me too. But fortunately, the first time we fell in love was with each other. Okay, Xiao Su, you've been staying at home for so many days, go out for a walk and get some fresh air. Su Tianqian said. I nodded and said, okay. Afterwards, I simply packed up and left Jiyuntang with Su Tianqian. We wandered around Tianfu City. Things came to a brief halt. Su Tianqian and I can date like normal couples. But, will this kind of opportunity come back in the future? I couldn't help but feel sad. Su Tianqian and I met an old acquaintance in a shopping mall. The acquaintance is Ruo Heng. Ruo Heng and I haven't seen each other for a while. When I saw her, she was picking out clothes. Ruo Heng was also very surprised to see me. Lu Su, why are you here? Ruo Heng asked in shock. I smiled and said, come here for a walk. Later, Su Tianqian, Ruo Heng and I came to a restaurant. Lu Su, Sister Tianqian, why aren't you at home these days? I've looked for you several times before, but every time the door was locked. Ruo Heng complained. I explained, there are some things that I need to deal with during these days, so I won't be at home. Ruo Heng suddenly became serious and asked, Lu Su, what are you doing now? Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1738. Ruo Heng doesn't know what I have done recently. There was already an insurmountable gap between me and her. This gap does not mean that there is already a gap between me and her. But what I am doing now, she cannot know, and I cannot tell her. I smiled and said, I didn't do anything. I was still dealing with the previous matters. Ruo Heng saw that I didn't want to say more and didn't continue to ask. Afterwards, Ruo Heng and Su Tianqian started chatting. The two of us were chatting so passionately that they even forgot about my existence. Yeah. We talked for too long. I forgot the time. Ruo Heng said, patting her head. Sister Tianqian, I'm sorry to interrupt your date with Lu Su. Su Tianqian said, it's okay. You and I haven't seen each other for a long time. It's reasonable to catch up on old times. Ruo Heng stood up and said, okay, I won't disturb you two anymore. Sister Tianqian, I will visit you when I am free. Su Tianqian nodded slightly. After Ruo Heng left, Su Tianqian and I walked around again and then returned to Jiyuntang. It was peaceful for several days. On this day, I knew I couldn't wait any longer. After resting for so long, it's time to take action. If you want to control the underworld, you must be the enemy of the underworld. There are countless Yin soldiers in the underworld, as well as gods such as Yama in the 10 palaces. In the past, I would never dare to think about such a thing. But these days are different. Over the past few days, I have refined the power of Yin and Yang and understood the immortal killing sword formation. The strength has long been extraordinary. In addition, I have the magic whip and the 4 magic swords, and I will escape unscathed even if I enter the underworld alone. Now that I have decided to fight against fate, I will not be idle. That night, I called Huaxiu and the others together. I expressed my thoughts in front of everyone. Everyone was slightly startled after hearing this. Huaxiu asked, brother, do you really want to go to the underworld alone? I nodded and said, that's right. Huaxiu looked worried and said, brother, the underworld is too powerful for you to be alone. I waved my hand and said, I am different now, so you don't have to worry. Long Ji said on the side, how about we go together? Xiao He also nodded and agreed, yes. Let's go together. I will get Jin's and Subaru chicken back later, let's go together. Jin's has left Jiyuntang. This is what I mean, I don't want to hum her, I want her to experience life. As for Pleiades chicken master being taken away by Jin's, I heard from Su Tianqian that Jin's has now integrated into human society and seems to have opened a dessert shop of his own. Su Tianqian naturally got the money to open the store. No, there's no need to ask them to come back. I can handle it myself. Su Tianxian, who had been silent, spoke up and said, Xiao Su, I feel that you can't be so reckless and should make careful preparations. I looked at Su Tianxian and said with a smile, Tianxian, I have already thought about it, so you don't need to worry about this matter. Su Tianxian nodded. While we were discussing, there was a sudden knock on the door of Ji Yuntang. I got up and opened the door. Zhao Mian was seen standing outside the door wearing a bronze mask. I was slightly startled by his arrival. It seems you are recovering well. Zhao Mian spoke up. I knew that Zhao Mian came to me for something. Tell me, why did you come to me this time? Zhao Mian glanced at everyone in the room, and then said, take a step to speak. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1739. I looked back at Su Tianxian. Su Tianxian nodded. Later, Zhao Mian and I left Ji Yuntang and came to the park not far away. Zhao Mian asked, what are you going to do next? I pondered for a moment and told Zhao Mian everything I thought. Control the underworld and kill the gods. Zhao Mian looked at me with some confusion. I can't believe that your heart has become so cruel. I smiled and said, I'm not being cruel, because this is the only way to solve the problem. Slaughter the gods, extract part of their souls, and send them to reincarnation. In this way, they will not be able to pose a threat to us. If this method is feasible, the tomb of the gods can also be adopted. Zhao Mian looked at me with some admiration. I didn't expect that your brain is quite useful. You can really try this method. My previous plan was to kill all the gods. Of course, this is the worst plan. Once the gods disappear, the world will fall into chaos. If you do this, it is equivalent to giving them another chance to become gods. Anyway, the list of gods is in your hands, you have the final say. I nodded and said, you are right. The list of gods is in my hands. I can erase their status at any time. But that's not a long-term solution. If this matter is feasible, I will finish clearing the tombs of the gods and then go to the 9th floor of the Sky Coffin to restore order to the Sky Coffin. In this way, after the age of Dharma end, there will be an age of chaos. All forces are starting from scratch, and the human race has a chance to rise. Zhao Mian pondered for a moment and said, there is a big flaw in your plan, that is, the beginning of an era must be very long, at least it will be several decades. I estimate that you will be gone by then. If you disappear now, who can stop this? I smiled and said, I have already considered this matter. After I enter the Sky Coffin, the list of gods will be handed over to you, and you will start this new era. Zhao Mian was startled, then laughed, and said, you really think highly of me, aren't you afraid that I will become the co-owner of this world? I looked at Zhao Mian and said, then I can't care about it, and I believe you can't. That's not necessarily the case. Zhao Mian said. I did not continue to argue with Zhao Mian on this matter. I plan to go to the underworld in these days. Are you alone? Well, alone. Zhao Mian patted my shoulder and said, you and I belong together, I will go with you. Zhao Mian is very strong. If he goes with me, things will definitely go smoother. Okay, since you want to go, then you and I will go together. Later, I discussed with Zhao Mian the matters related to going to the underworld. After the discussion, Zhao Mian and I returned to Ji Yuntang. But before I even got close to Ji Yuntang, I felt a bone-chilling chill. I frowned. What a heavy yin energy. I whispered. Zhao Mian frowned and said, something happened in Ji Yuntang. My heart tightened and I quickly ran in the direction of Ji Yuntang. The closer you get to Ji Yuntang, the heavier the yin energy will be. At this moment, a sinister wind blew up all around, and then countless figures appeared out of thin air. I looked closely and saw that they were all Yin soldiers wearing armor and holding weapons. Judging from the Yin energy emanating from these Yin soldiers, they are ghost generals. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1740. Zhao Mian sneered from the side. It seems that the underworld can't wait to take action on you. I didn't expect the underworld to move so quickly. But why are they here in such a hurry? Now I am no longer the soft persimmon who can be manipulated by others. Then the only breakthrough for the gods is Su Tianxian. I was shocked, the underworld was trying to snatch Su Tianxian away. Thinking of this, I didn't have time to say anything to Zhao Mian. My expression condensed, and with a wave of my hand, countless heavenly secrets emerged from around me. With a thought, obscure spells instantly appeared in the blank heavenly secret barrel. My current way of doing things is different from the past. All the Su clan fox demons instilled their demonic energy into my body. After these days of refining, I have refined all these evil spirits. By converting the demonic energy into my own profound energy, my Taoism will increase exponentially. In this way, the spiritual vein seal in my body can also be unlocked to the 9th level. In addition, I received the Yin and Yang inheritance in Zhangzia's tomb. The inheritance of Yin and Yang can be regarded as the root of the evolution of all laws in the world. Because this world cannot be separated from Yin and Yang. It is precisely because of accepting the inheritance of Yin and Yang that I already have the strength to rival the gods. Moreover, I can unlock the 11th level of the spiritual vein dragon energy seal. In addition, even if the seal is released, I will not have any backlash. Because my own strength is there, the dragon energy cannot bite me back. If I had such strength in the land of the fallen god, Wenzhong and the others would definitely not be my opponents, and Cai Dai would not die. This is also the reason why I dare to venture into the underworld alone. The number of heavenly secrets used is directly proportional to one's own strength. Now I can easily control hundreds of heavenly secrets. I wave again. The heavenly secret barrel soared into the sky, emitting dazzling golden light in the air, and the next second, bursts of thunder could be heard in the air. The thunder shook the heaven and the earth. Thunder and lightning as thick as a bucket fell down in response. The thunder and lightning directly swallowed the ghost general. They didn't even have time to dodge before they were stunned. After destroying the ghost general, I rushed towards Ji Yuntang without stopping. When I arrived at the door of Ji Yuntang, I was completely shocked by the scene before me. The antique Ji Yuntang has turned into a ruined area at this moment. I clenched my fists. I didn't expect that Ji Yuntang would be destroyed after I left for such a short time. Ji Yuntang is very meaningful to me. He is my second home. Here are my most precious memories. I rushed into the waste area and looked around. At this time, Long Ji walked out of the abandoned area in embarrassment. I quickly stepped forward and asked, Long Ji, how are you? What happened here? Long Ji's pretty face turned pale, and he replied with a trembling voice, after you left, Yama from the 10th hall of the underworld suddenly appeared, and then, took away Tianxian and Huaxiu. When I heard this, my expression changed drastically. The 10th palace Yama is actually here. Long Ji nodded and replied, no. That's right, I'm not their opponent, so I couldn't keep Tianxian. Anger burned in my heart, and I took a deep breath to calm the anger in my heart. Okay, I understand. You take good care of yourself and I'll bring Tianxian back. Long Ji grabbed my hand and said, Lu Su, I want to go with you too. I shook my head at Long Ji and said, don't go, stay here. Well, don't worry, I will definitely bring them back.